Welcome to Joe's Place, the Joe Giannotti podcast. Today's topic begins a new series on Joe's Place in which we will delve into injuries and adverse reactions revolving around the COVID-19 vaccines. In the latest Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, also known as VAERS, which was released on July 8th, 2021, there have been 9,048 reported deaths, with over 430,000 plus reported adverse reactions that are related to the COVID-19 vaccines that are currently on the market. In this episode, we will go over the process in filing a VAERS report. I will also interview 5 people who will be sharing their post-COVID vaccine stories on this podcast. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Joe's Place podcast. I am your host, Joe Giannotti, and this evening I'm starting a brand new series. The reason why I'm starting this series is because for the past 6 months, one thing I have noticed on the different social media platforms that I belong on is I'm seeing more and more and more stories of those who are post-vaccinated, injured from the COVID-19 vaccines. And now what I'm seeing is more and more people either being gaslit or their voices are being censored that are injured, okay? Stories about VAERS, which we're going to get into in a little bit with Angelia DeSell. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the different topics revolving around this topic of post-COVID vaccination injured. We're going to go right into the first person who came out and shared her story, as well as a woman by the name of Christy Simmons and Angelia DeSell, who shared their story on the Highwire with Del Bigtree. I want to welcome right off the bat, Sean Vidiella. Sean, good evening and welcome to the Joe's Place podcast.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for having me.
It's been an incredible last few months since the interview on the Highwire with Del Bigtree, and I'm going to put that right up on the screen where people can get that interview. Let me see. I don't actually have that up, but I want you to share your story since that interview on how are you feeling and what has been going on.
Okay. Since the Del Bigtree interview, I have yet still declined in my health. I have now gone into having seizures. I have now been added 4 new medications along to the medications that I was already on during the Del Bigtree interview. About 4 weeks ago, I lost the use of both of my legs. That was the first time that had happened to me. I lost the use of my legs for 2 days, and then I was able to use a walker or a lot of help from my family or friends to help me get around. To use my legs. Still, I'm not getting any answers from our medical community. They're still giving us bogus answers, telling us that it's stress or mental, but yet they're telling us all of us the same thing. None of us are on medications for that. We're all on medications for seizures and movement disorders, severe headaches. We almost are having symptoms of long haulers, COVID long haulers. There are days that.
Sean, I want you to delve into that portion of it. Has there been any medical professional that has been trying to help you out? That is somewhat of that's been successful in helping you out and trying to make you feel better?
No. Absolutely not. My primary care physician just keeps throwing pills my way, and trying to relieve the symptoms of the seizures and the convulsions. But honestly, they just don't know how to help me, or they're too scared to help me. I am now on ivermectin. I did get through the American Frontline Doctors after I lost the use of my legs, and I did get on the ivermectin. The research that I've done my own self is where I'm finding that we're fitting more through the long haulers. There are days that we find that we can't even wake up. I mean, we could sleep an entire 24 hours. A minimum little bit of exercise is just exhausting for us.
One thing I heard just yesterday, Sean, is that between long haulers and post-COVID vax patients that are having long hauler type symptoms, the one major issue has been with exercise, that some of these people want to go on long hikes, long, treks, and after a quarter mile, they can't do anything else.
Right. I have all of my blood work. They have given me some blood work and scans, and that was through basically begging my primary care physician to order those. They've all came back normal. The only thing that came back abnormal was my sedimentation rate and my we have brain fog really bad. My C-reactive protein, which was saying that I had very high inflammation in my body, which was obvious, that my body was going crazy, just flinging all over the place. But it literally is just attacking every organ in our body one by one. And we might have a few good days where you look at us and you can't tell that anything's wrong with us. And then we'll be down for a week at a time.
Wow.
I have been now deemed disabled since the Highwire show. I know my workman's comp had denied my claim on the Highwire show, but I don't know if I had been fired yet. My employer, had coerced me into taking the vaccine, and then denied my workman's comp and then fired me. I'd been in healthcare for 27 years. It's the job that I love more than anything. So now I sit here and look at four walls. I can't drive. I can't get out and take a walk.
You were in the medical field for 27 years. And you
27
probably
years.
saw,
I started when I was 16.
I just want to just double check. You were a nurse, or were you in
CNA?
CNA, okay. I mean, what's your reaction about all of this? Seeing between how you have been treated and how those that contract COVID not receiving any treatment. I mean, this doesn't sound
It's
like.
disgusting. It's disheartening. But let me tell you this, Joe. It's so sad because I've been on both sides. I worked the front lines of the COVID unit. I have never had COVID. So I completely understand the importance of COVID. I've seen it firsthand. But I will also tell you, Joe, that we lost more residents after the vaccination than we did to COVID.
Wow. You lost more residents post-vaccination in the past 6 months.
Yes, sir.
Since the rollout in the end of the year, first to seniors and now to the, then since, of course, the general public.
They gave us on January the 4th, they came into our facility and injected all the residents. I believe there was only one resident that refused it. And they injected all the rest of the residents, and the staff that did take it that day, unfortunately, I did not trust my gut, and I went ahead with it, and I went from hero to zero that day.
How many have died in your individual location, and how many had adverse reactions, either similar to yours or other adverse reactions?
Well, I will tell you this. In that said facility, there were 11 deaths within a few weeks of the jab.
11
we lost
deaths.
6 to COVID. But that would never be said that it was caused from the jab. But we went from having, yes, they were in the nursing home. They had underlying conditions, but we're talking people who could take care of themselves to, I have videos, audios that I have not released yet that were sent to me by staff of residents screaming and begging for help. They were in so much pain and so sick, and I have not released those yet. But I do have those. I do have staff that had told me that one lady had passed the morning, was in full body convulsions, the same as I was, and was completely ignored. And when they went back in, she was gone.
That is so incredibly sad. That is so incredibly sad.
And we're all being censored. We're just being silenced.
No, nobody's hearing this. Nobody's hearing this at all.
Right.
Not at all.
My daughter-in-law just left a facility just 14 miles from us. They began segregation in their facility between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated residents. And I'm just mind blown by that, because I think these people have already lived this, and now this is how they're going to live their final days. It's unbelievable. I don't know what our world has come to, But when you see them offering free stuff for a vaccination, that should brighten your eyes up pretty far.
I'm going to go one further.
But
I want to go one further. I really think that the push is for the mRNA vaccines more than any of the others.
Yes.
And I believe I have evidence on that. As a matter of fact, I don't believe it. I do have evidence on that. And at some point I will reveal that. And I don't know if it's on purpose, if it's a monetary thing, if it's if in some way, shape, or form it involves some type of criminal element. I don't know the answer to that. None of us do. But all I know is this. The push is for the mRNA vaccines, okay? Johnson & Johnson, all you keep hearing when the FDA comes out with the different warning labels is on Johnson & Johnson. Only the myocarditis and the pericarditis was brought up on Pfizer. And as of now, nothing has been brought up on Moderna, to the best of my knowledge, which is very, very suspicious to me. Especially when...
I think you cut out, Joe.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, especially when you have so many adverse reactions on the VAERS site. We're up to over 430,000 reactions with a backlog. Is your VAERS report currently up? And how long, if so, how long did it take for you to hear from someone from VAERS?
It is up. It took me 3 months. And I had to report it myself. My employer didn't report it. I visited 5 emergency rooms, my primary care physician. No one reported any of it. I had to report it myself. Reporting this.
This should not be up to the individual. This should be up to a hospital or a doctor.
Right.
Not up to the individual.
So you wonder how many others aren't being reported, because in the 26 years that I've been in healthcare, I didn't even know about VAERS. So how many other people honestly don't even know about it?
It's a very good point.
It's so sad, because there are days that we feel like we're not going to get another day. And there are days that we feel like maybe we don't even want another day. I was a perfectly healthy 42-year-old female when I took that shot that day. I took 1 pill a day. And now I take like 14, 15 pills a day.
Did you even get the second shot?
Absolutely not.
No.
I was recommended not to get the second shot.
And which one?
The Moderna.
The Moderna. Okay. Aside from Del Bigtree and a couple of other people, including myself, has there been anyone mainstream or a politician that has talked to you?
No, I have reached out to my senator, Mike Braun, who basically shut me down and told me how important COVID was. And I respond back to him every day with an email that same thing. I understand how important COVID is. You know, I've worked on both sides. Please understand and let us be heard. Stop censoring us. You know, understand that there's thousands of us. This is definitely something that has happened to us neurologically. I am getting closer, Joe. I've been waiting a long 7 months. I do have my neurology appointment coming up August 2nd.
Good luck on that.
Right.
All the best. And I would like you to come back on to give a report and an update on that. One final question for you.
Absolutely. Yes.
If you had the proper informed consent, now that what we know about all of these vaccines between Moderna, Pfizer, J&J, and AstraZeneca, AstraZeneca, of course, overseas. Knowing what you now know, would you have taken the shot?
Absolutely not. And Joe, I went to Knox County, Indiana Health Department board meeting last Wednesday. And I completely lost my temper, which was completely out of my character to have reacted in that way. But, you know, these are people that are giving these jabs out to children, to adults, but they're not educated with informed consent. So they're not able to educate the public. And I don't care how many pages you can print off of your computer or flip through on your computer, because I am real life informed consent. And so are the other 4 that you're going to interview. We are real life statistic. We are real data. We are not misinformation. And, you know, they shut me down real quick. They did not want to hear what I had to say.
And my
I got
question is
so loud in there.
And my question is why? Why are all of you being shut down?
I don't understand. We're not asking for anything. They're saying there's just a small percentage, but if that's true, if there's just a really small percentage of us, well, that really small percentage of us, we're severely injured. So why not help us if there's just that really small percentage? Because we're disabled. We're not asking for anything except to be heard and treated.
That's right. Well, I think if one death is too many for COVID, one death or one long hauler is too many for COVID, then one death or one long hauler post-vax is too many. And we need to find out why. We need to find out why. And that's why I'm starting this series, because all of your voices need to be heard.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you, Sean, for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Joe.
I want to thank you so much. And there is one thing I also have to say. I want to congratulate you, because of all of this, there was one great event that occurred since the Del Bigtree interview, and that is that you got married. Congratulations to you and your husband.
Thank you so much.
All the success to both of you. And please, I want you to come back on, because we would love to have an update on your condition. And God bless.
I'm just praying that it's going to come out before my appointment. We're close. I mean, Fox News is starting to pick it up. They shared our right to be heard video. All we can do is pray, Joe, because that's all that's left for us now.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up on the screen the site that I think has become very powerful. And the site is C19 Vax Reactions.
Yes. Yes.
This has been a very, very powerful site.
Yes. And
go on there, and when I have my next guest on, I'm going to go right down, and you can see Angelia's story right on there.
Yes. I have also submitted mine, but they are very backed up. They are getting submitted very large quantities. So you're going to see this site grow very quickly. And I think I have 18,000 followers. I know I have hundreds that have reached out to me. And if you're watching that, or if you're watching this, please make sure you go to that and fill in your story, because this is the site that we're going to go off of and get our voices out there. So it's very important.
There it is. C19vaxreactions.com.
Yes.
Sean, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much,
yourself
Joe.
a wonderful night, and my prayers and well wishes are for you.
Thank you so much. You have a good evening.
Thank you.
All
Good
right.
night now. So once again, C19vaxreactions.com. And we're going to go right back to that in one moment, because I'm going to bring on my next guest who has a story. Her story is right on the front page of C19vaxreactions.com. And I want to welcome Angelia DeSell on. Angelia, good evening and welcome to Joe's Place. Thank you so much for coming on. And since the Del Bigtree interview, how have you been feeling?
I did lose. I'm still emotional. Hearing Sean's story gets to me every time. Since the Highwire in April, I have lost the use of my legs again. I'm still having the tremors, the severe headaches. Some days I feel like I'm going to pass out. I have started having vision loss, white flashes in my eyes, and now the top of my head stays numb all the time. I never know how I'm going to wake up from day to day. It's just today happens to be a good day. Last night I was ready to go back to the ER and throw a fit until I actually got some help. So it's just a whirlwind every day.
And I know for you, it's been almost 6 months now since this has occurred.
6.5. I took my, Sean actually took her injection on January the 4th, and I took mine on January the 5th. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And which vaccine did you receive?
I took the Pfizer, and like Sean, I have also been on both sides of this pandemic too. I have lost family members to COVID, close family members. So, I thought I was doing the right thing by helping get our country on the right track.
Right.
And I've had 17 neurological visits, 5 days stay in the hospital, numerous tests. There's no help out there for us, Joe.
Angelia, you're part of 130 million Americans that have done that. 130 million Americans took the vaccine so that the pandemic could come to an end. So this nightmare that has now killed 600,000 people can come to an end. Mm-hmm. And like I said to Sean, if for the critics that say that one COVID death is too many and one long hauler is too many, well then, to me, one post-COVID vax death is too many, and one post-COVID vax adverse reaction is too many. Mm-hmm. And we should investigate those as well.
They won't, Joe. They're scared. They won't investigate it.
I know.
Not until we get to herd immunity, we are still being silenced. And I believe in all of my heart that it's going to stay like that until the numbers have been reached.
Sadly, you're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, none of you should be censored. You should not
No.
be censored at all. Your voices need to be heard. Something happened to you post-vax that injured you. We need to find out why.
Joe,
Okay.
I was paralyzed 3 days after my vaccine. Completely healthy 45-year-old woman. Paralyzed. No diagnosis, 6.5 months later. I have regained the use of my legs, but I have lost them 3 times throughout this 6.5 months. My longest seizure was 13 hours.
13 hours?
13 hours.
Wow. And
Yeah.
and Angelia, have there been any medical professionals that have tried to help you?
Here in New Orleans?
No, anywhere.
Absolutely
Anywhere.
not. I have reached out to the American Frontline Doctors. They have prescribed me ivermectin that is working. It has been the only thing that has got me back on track. And there is another group of physicians that are analyzing our blood that are finding that we have a lot of the same inflammation markers that, like Sean said, the COVID long haulers have. So there are a couple of groups.
Do you mind me asking who are they?
It's the Patterson group with IncelDX.
That's quite okay, because I have mentioned them on multiple occasions.
Okay.
I have mentioned Dr.
I don't
Bruce
like
Patterson,
mentioning,
Dr.
right?
Ron
I don't like mentioning
Yogendra.
anything.
No,
without
I've mentioned them on multiple occasions, and
Yeah.
I am trying to get them on very soon on an episode, because they keep whenever they come on, either Dr. Drew or they have a clubhouse group with IncelDX, they always have news, and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
The amount of patients they're seeing between long haulers and now the post-vax. It really is incredible. I know Dr. Yogendra had said in past interviews that the crisis of 2021 would be long haulers, and now that's made it to mainstream. And he recently spoke out and said the crisis of 2021 and 2022 is going to be COVID long hauler post-vax. And I think as you continue to see VAERS numbers go up and up and up, which last week stunned me, you would think that on a 4th of July week that the numbers would be low, considering you had 1 day off with federal government holiday, so nobody's working. So it's only a 4-day work week. And for them to come out with 2,000 additional vaccine reaction deaths was stunning. Absolutely stunning. And Angelia, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up your story, and I want you to go over with the audience on the procedure and filing a VAERS report. Let me see. Let me bring this up here. So here is the VAERS site, okay? This is the VAERS site, and
There's a link there, Joe, that you can report the adverse reactions. First, let me go on the record and say that I begged the hospital when I was there for 5 days to report my adverse reaction to VAERS. It was never reported.
And what I'm going to and Angelia, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post your reaction. Okay. Let me bring that up. And because I think it's very important to see this. And here it is. And so when did you receive your first call from VAERS?
I reported on January the 20th, and it was March 5th before I heard anything from the CDC. I was acknowledged. We see you have a report. We're just doing a follow-up. And that was it. There's no help from the CDC whatsoever.
Did they ever call you back in reference to, because there has to be an update at some point, you know, your condition changes, your symptoms change, either worsen or improve. Do they call and do a follow-up after the initial report?
So after I received my vaccine on January the 5th, I had received a card stating that I should check in through VSafe, which is part of the CDC, kind of like a mobile site where you can just go in and fill out the symptoms. And so I had been doing that. I believe the first week it was you check in every day, and then it kind of went to every couple of days, and then weekly, then every 2 weeks, and then monthly. And every time that I would fill out my report, I would put that I had to be seen in an emergency room, a hospital, outpatient setting. And I actually have a couple of screenshots of it as well that I just saved for my personal records. But at the tag at the bottom, it says, according to the symptoms that you have reported, someone from the CDC may give you a call. It was last Tuesday that I finally got a call from VSafe saying that they were with the CDC, and they were, well, I take that back. I do have a voicemail on my phone from June where they had tried to reach out to me and ask me why I was not able to return to my normal activities or go back to work.
That's 5 months.
Yeah.
That's 5 months.
I did this. I believe it was on a Tuesday. I reported it on VSafe again because they said it was time for me to get my other injection was past due, 6.5 months. And they were wanting to check in on me. So I did fill out the little report. I think that I got the call on a Thursday. I filled it out on a Tuesday. I got the call on a Thursday. The lady was from the CDC. I had small chat with her. She actually told me that she makes about 40 calls a day. So, and that's just one person. And, you know, the lady was very nice. I know that she's
40
calls a day. Yeah. Reporting adverse reactions.
In a 5-day week, assuming the person works a 40-hour a week schedule, that's 200 calls a week for one person.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I actually have, someone had sent me a job opening with VAERS back, I guess, around February, because I managed a surgery center, you know, and I have coders that work for me, where VAERS was actually trying to hire contract coders to keep up.
Because of the backlog.
The backlog, yeah.
How far do you think that they're still backlogged by at least three months?
Absolutely, yes. I have people in my group, Joe, that still has not heard anything. And trying to contact Pfizer, that's a broken record.
And let's talk about your group that you have on social media. Because, you know, I've chatted with you before, and that group, just in general, that has got to be very powerful for all of you, to just be a close-knit, tight group where you're just supporting each other during this very difficult time of your lives.
It is. You know, to be told by the medical community that you have anxiety or stress or functional neurological disorder or conversion disorder, and you are absolutely 100% not having anxiety. You know, I can go and be having a convulsion and be as calm as can be. So just to have that support of people saying, "Hey, you're not alone," it means more than anything. We have a lot of insomnia in our group, so some of us don't sleep well at night, and it means the world just to pick up the phone and start a chat with somebody. You know, when everybody else is sleeping, us injured people are normally up because we don't sleep a lot. So Sean and I actually started the group. Actually, Sean started it. Me and her connected first. Someone sent me her video while I was in the hospital, and I was like, I have got to find this lady. So she started the little chat group with just me and her, and it has grew and grew and grew. Now we do screen people that come in because we've had people in there that should not be in there. Our group is mostly just movement disorder or severe neurological issues, but there is at least 2,000 of us out there that are severely injured.
Right.
At least. Yeah.
And how many more groups have you found that are similar to yours, or maybe even bigger than yours?
5. And some of them are a lot bigger, like the burning, tingling, numbing group. That was a huge group, and it just completely got shut down. Facebook shut it down.
Wow.
Yeah. So our little group is through a private messenger. We don't post anything, you know, out there for them. So we can strictly chat. We can share personal information, and we all trust each other. And we know that it's not going anywhere outside of our little messenger.
What I think the most important part of a group like that is just the moral support, especially when someone is having a bad day.
Yeah. I was having a really rough night last night, and I chimed in and I said, guys, y'all better get some bail money together because I'm about ready to go to the ER, and 1 or 3 things is going to happen. They're going to treat me, they're going to throw me in jail, or they're going to put me in the crazy house, 1 of the 3, because I just about had it. You know, I've been dealing with this for 6.5 months. And no medical help. I worked in the healthcare for 20 years. No medical help.
I want to delve into that. I mean, what's your reaction to that? You were in the medical field for 20 you were in the medical field for 2 decades.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, the way that between this, what we're discussing here today, as well as the long haulers, and the fact that those who have contracted COVID are not receiving anything, any treatment except for Gatorade, Tylenol, and rest, and possibly chicken soup, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your reaction to all of this that we've seen in the past 16 months in the medical field?
I'm completely disgusted. The way that I have been treated, it's not even right. My last neurologist will not even put me back on his schedule. What does that say about a doctor? You know, they take an oath.
Why not?
It's unreal. He diagnosed me with migraines. Migraines that cause paralysis, convulsions. No, it's not migraines. I have 5 lesions on my brain. I have 2 lesions in my spine. I have inflammation all throughout my body. Somebody needs to hear me and see me. I'm here and I'm real.
We need to hear mainstream. Your voices need to be heard. Mm-hmm. Your voices need to be heard. Now, Sean started talking about a Fox News segment that you were, that I guess a clip was
Yeah.
briefly shown on Sunday morning, I believe.
Yes, Sunday morning around 7 o'clock.
Can you please delve into that a little bit further? And has anyone mainstream, aside from anyone period, aside from Del Bigtree or myself or anyone else, has anyone else reached out to you?
No. No. Me and Sean have literally been screaming since January. I hit up my local stations. I hit up Tucker Carlson. I hit up Laura Ingraham. I hit up Newsmax, Grant Snitchfield. I am steadily pounding away at these guys. Hey, we're here. You know, when are we going to be acknowledged? Nothing.
There is currently something going on in your state, which
Yeah.
is Louisiana. I want you to talk about that. And I want you to talk about the piece of legislature that Governor John Bel Edwards just vetoed.
Yeah. So I was reached out by a group of people. They were putting a bill together, House Bill 498, that was for discrimination against unvaccinated people. They had seen my story. They wanted me to come and speak. So I did. I went and spoke in front of the legislator. The bill passed through the House. The second time I was not able to go speak when it went through the Senate because I was having white flashes in my eyes and they thought my retinas were detaching. So I was pretty much on bed rest, but I did release a statement that was read. It had passed through the Senate, I believe 71 yeas and 27 nays. I might be wrong on those numbers, but it was in the 70s and the 20s, which made it veto proof. Well, our lovely governor has vetoed the bill. So it looks like now they're going to have to open up a special session for this bill 498 that was veto proof.
So there's veto proof legislation that the governor vetoed.
And now it has to go through special session.
When has special session begun?
No, not yet. I believe it's going to be the 21st through the 24th. If they can get enough of people to agree to the special session. So it's an ongoing battle, you know. Our bill was passed, it made it through the House, it made it through the Senate, and then our governor decided to do the vaccine lottery, you know, or the day the bill passed, I actually received a picture of him sitting behind his desk promoting, it was National Bourbon Day. He had his little glass of bourbon with a big old picture that says, a shot for a shot in Louisiana. If you go get your vaccine, you can take your card to your local bar and get a free shot.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, and now we have the lottery. That was like right after the bill come out, he started promoting the lottery.
Angelia, all of these states are doing these lotteries. Just about every state is now doing a lottery.
Washington State is doing joints for vaccines. I actually have the clip that they said this was the first time that they have ever been able to give away cannabis to the public.
Think about this: a drug for a drug. A drug for a drug. So, but in
West Virginia is giving away shotguns and hunting rifles.
Right.
What is wrong with this? You know, our administration is trying to take away guns. They're trying to stop drugs, but now to get a vaccine, they're going to give away guns and give away drugs. Insanity. Wake up, America! Wake up! What is wrong with you?
Angelia, it's insanity. Did you see what they're doing in Vegas? What they've done in Las Vegas? is you go to Larry Flint's strip club. Free limo service, bottle, and everything else, lap dance and everything else for a vaccine. I mean, why? I want to know why they're so desperate. Why are they so desperate? And in particular, like I said to Sean, why are they so desperate for the mRNA in particular? Because if you see the stories, they're just about all of them are about Johnson & Johnson or AstraZeneca. Why are they going after those two and not going after Pfizer or Moderna? I want to know the answer to that. I think we need to know the truth.
I have a theory, but I'm not even going to go there because people, when I try to tell it, they're like, what? You know, but a lot of it is big pharma. Fauci is invested in Pfizer. He's invested in Moderna. It's pharma. They're getting rich. They're getting rich off of everyone. You know, when you go to a pharmacy or you go to a hospital and you get this vaccine, in the beginning, they weren't asking you for your insurance card. Well, now they're asking you for your insurance card. Do you know why that is? Because they're charging 97632, which is the administration of the injection. So they're getting reimbursed from the insurance companies.
Yes.
You know, I mean.
Well, I'm still waiting to hear how much these vaccine companies made in Q2. In Q1, they made $19 billion.
Yeah.
With a B. Billion. I want to find out how much they made in Q2.
Right? They thought they were going to take a loss.
And quite frankly, all the money that all of you have had to pay for doctors not helping you should be covered by them.
I haven't worked in 6.5 months. I lost an income. I was a manager of a surgery center. That income is gone. I have no income. I mean, there's so many of us in our group that are disabled.
Angelia.
With no disability. That's the thing, because we can't get a diagnosis to even be covered under disability.
That's right. It's so sad. It is so sad. And Angelia, I want to thank you for coming on. And if you want to see Angelia's story, full story, I'm going to bring it up on the screen onto the C19vaxreactions.com. If you click on the real video stories, on the bottom, you will see the trailer and the full interview with Angelia. And Angelia, as I said, thank you so much for coming on. And please, I want you to come back and give us an update on that bill that is currently in the process of going through special session in the Louisiana Congress.
I just have one thing to say though, Joe. Anybody out there listening, if you have been injured, whether it's minor or whether it's major, report it to VAERS, please. The more reports they have, it needs to be reported. We might not get anything out of it, but it needs to be reported. And also, anybody that thinks they're alone in this battle, reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook. I get hundreds of messages a day, but I will try my hardest to get back to you, and we will get you in the proper group that you need to be in, because you're not alone.
Angelia, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you so much for sharing your story. And also, you can see Sean's story as well as Angelia's, as well as Christy Simmons' story. You can see them on the Highwire, which I posted below the title with the summary. I wanted to make sure that I posted that because that is a very powerful interview that the three of you had with Del Bigtree.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. And my prayers and well wishes are for you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Have a great night. The first two stories are just so sad to hear. We have 3 more stories, including our next guest, who's going to be sharing her story for the first time with anyone. And I'm going to bring her up right now. Her name is Mona. And Mona, good evening and welcome to Joe's Place. And I want to thank you so much for sharing your story exclusively with me. I want you just to tell your story on when you received vaccine, which vaccine you received, and what happened.
Okay. First, before I tell my story, please bear with me because I'm not having one of the good days today. Okay. Sometimes I get brain fog and sometimes I forget what I'm saying. So, I'm going to try my best to tell my story the best I can.
Okay.
So on April 28th, I got my Pfizer vaccination. And 2 hours after I received the Pfizer vaccination, I went out with my family for dinner and I had to use the restroom. And when I was in the restroom, I basically froze. I couldn't remember where I was. My body couldn't move. Thankfully, my daughter was in the restroom with me and she had to hold my arm to get me back to where we were eating. And then, so I didn't really think anything of it at the time. And then the next couple of days, it was basically like flu-like symptoms like they said it was going to be. I was getting joint pains and, I felt maybe a little feverish and stuff like that. But around the 3rd day, I started getting extreme pains in my thigh area, going down my legs. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And then, so, I knew something was going on. So I went to my a community hospital where I thought I was going to get help. And they told me that they ran some regular blood tests. And they told me that they can't do anything here. It's too complicated. And for me to go see a neurologist and maybe a rheumatologist. So I went back home, made my phone calls to my rheumatologist and neurologist, but, they're all booked up for months on end. And I couldn't wait. So I said, you know what, maybe I'll try another hospital. So I go to another hospital. And at this point, I started having, I call them attacks, where I feel like my spine, it's like an elastic. So it's like the spine is trying to shorten. And then it's almost like I have to stretch it out. So my head would bounce back and forth. That's the best way I can explain it. And then my head feels really full, like, and really inflamed. So it's really hard for me to think and talk.
Right.
So I went to the other hospital where I thought they were going to help me. And they ran tests, CT scans, all those tests. And everything came out negative, except for when I got to the hospital, my blood pressure was up to, I think, 211 over something. And then, so I was begging them to admit me because I was scared to go home. I didn't want to die. So the doctor said that, I'm sorry, there's nothing that shows up that could keep you admitted in the hospital. So
Mona,
yes.
Mona, let me just interrupt for a quick second.
Yeah.
How many days after the vaccine, now you're at this stage? How many days after?
At the stage right now. So I got my
No,
vaccine.
I'm talking about
when this happened. Okay.
This happened.
So that was probably about a week out after my vaccination. So after that hospital, I was sent back home. And then, I thought, I don't know where to turn. And, I was just living my daily life and stuff like that. And then I had went to the mall thinking that I'm okay. And then as soon as I got to the mall, I went into freeze mode where I couldn't move my legs. And I didn't know where I was. And then I collapsed and they had to call 911. And at that point, they had to take me through 911 to a hospital where I thought, oh, finally, I'm going to get some help. And they kept me and I kept on saying, I had this vaccination, and I think it's the effect of the vaccination. That's why I'm like this. As soon as I got to emerge, they put me in a room. They shut the door and left me there for like hours. And then they told me that they were going to admit me and they were going to run a couple tests, but nothing was showing up on the scans. I had a MRI done, CT scans, hundreds of blood tests. Nothing was showing up. So the doctor there, they said, oh, you need to see a rheumatologist. So they discharged me and I went to a rheumatologist, and he ran blood tests and everything came out negative, except for it seems like I was having inflammation in my body. And then after that, he had gave me some steroids, like the steroids that you could take for 6 days. It's a taper steroids. And it seemed like it was doing something, but I could still feel something activating in my body, like burning in my chest and the shaking of my hands and my neck and stuff like that. And as this was going on, my legs were getting weaker and weaker. And by that point, I was already in a wheelchair. And then, so I went to my family doctor at that point, and my family doctor basically just said, oh, everything's okay, and prescribed me some anxiety medication. And then after that, I was like, no, this is not right. Let me go find another physician. So this physician said, yes, like, I think there's something wrong. So he admitted me into another hospital, which I was there for about 2 weeks. They did a spinal tap on me. They did all kinds of scans. And then after that, they said, oh, we know what it is. We think you have myasthenia gravis. So because at that point, they had to put a neck brace on my head, because when I was in the hospital, I couldn't even lift my head up. Nothing was moving. I could barely get on the toilet. They had to bring the commode. My legs were dragging. I couldn't lift my head. So they were like, oh, it must be myasthenia gravis. So they started giving me medication for myasthenia gravis. And then, so they discharged me with the diagnosis of me having MG. Then something in my heart was saying, I don't have MG. I've never had these problems before. So I went to go see a really good neurologist, a MG specialist, and he did EKG where they they check to see the muscle, I think the movements and stuff. And he said, you don't have MG. And so I went back to my family doctor and I said, I saw a specialist and they told me that I don't have MG. And throughout this whole thing, I was at the hospital. I was telling them that this is from the vaccine. And the only answers I would get is, oh, maybe, I don't know. Or they'll just turn their back and just avoid the question. And then, so after that, I came home and I was like, you know what? I'm not getting help from anywhere. So
by then, yeah, Mona, I just want to just ask you, by then, I just want to get the date timelines now. Yeah. So by then, how far in is that?
So maybe now a month after.
So this is now late May. May.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still dealing with it. Getting my attacks 5 times a day where my whole body would shake back and forth. It's like an attack. And every time I get that attack, my legs get worse. So after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to do something on my own. Let me just play around on Google or whatever, social media, to see if anybody's experiencing the same thing as me. And then that's when I saw Stevie's video. And I was like, let me reach out to her. And then she was kind enough to introduce me to a group that has helped me. And it just so happened that somebody in that group was from New Jersey as well, where I am right now, and was able to connect me to a doctor that had helped her. And now I'm getting treated with ivermectin. So now I'm out of a wheelchair and I'm walking with a cane. I do still use a wheelchair when I go to grocery stores and stuff like that. But as far as walking around in the house, I'm able to do it with a cane. And my attacks from having them like 5 times a day, it's gone down to maybe like 1 or 2 attacks a day.
Mona, I've been promoting because, again, I've been talking about Dr. Bruce Patterson, Dr. Romuald Gendra over at COVID Long Haulers. There is a doctor in New Jersey that just started working with them by the name of Eric Osgood, and I know he's going to be talking to Dr. Bean this week, which I highly recommend the interview. I don't know if it's the same doctor, but. But since you now are on treatment, ivermectin, and how long have you been on ivermectin?
So basically, I've been on ivermectin for probably like maybe two weeks or so. The first time he gave it to me, I feel like he put the doses like too low, too fast. So now I'm back on a higher amount of ivermectin every other day, and it seems like it's working for me. Obviously, like it's not totally out of me, and I think it's something that's just going to take time. But I am feeling a lot better from not being able to hold up my head, being in a wheelchair, to being able to walk with a cane, and being able to be a little bit more active with my family. And
first off, sorry, I want to greatly apologize for that, because that was my phone. That was my phone. But I want you to say that one more time. I just want to make sure so people in the audience can hear that clearly. So since you've been on the ivermectin, which is the past couple of weeks, now you're, say on a dosage, higher dosage.
Yes.
I just want to make sure the audience hears that correctly. How are you currently feeling? I'm assuming you are not bedridden at this point, because you don't look bedridden, and you're speaking to me exclusively today.
Yes. So before the ivermectin, I was in a wheelchair. I was having my attacks like 5 times a day, bad condition. Ever since I started taking the ivermectin, I'm able to, walk around the house, go up the stairs. Before, I used to drag myself up the stairs and go down on my bum and just kind of slide myself down. So I'm able to go downstairs, but I'm able to walk up them, which I wasn't able to before. And obviously, I'm not 100% yet. I know it's going to take time, but that medication has helped me in my situation.
Let me ask you, what do you consider yourself now, percentage-wise?
I know I still have a long way to go, because I could feel it in my body. I could feel it in my head. Sometimes I'm scared to sleep because I'm afraid that I'm not going to wake up, but I would have to say maybe 50% better.
Which is 50% better than what you were feeling, correct?
Yeah, with the ivermectin, yes.
Right.
Yeah. And this, this doesn't just affect us, it affects our whole family. My partner has been really good to me and is patient with me, but we're not the only ones that are going through it. Our whole family has to go through this pain, so it's not just like the person getting injured, it's everybody around us.
And how has that, between your family and the group that you have joined, which I'm assuming is that the Angelia group? Is that the Angelia DeSalle group? Okay.
Yes.
Between those two groups, how has that helped you just, just in a moral support aspect of things?
Right. I mean, it helps a lot to know that, like, you're not alone. When you're having your bad days and you want to talk to somebody about it that understands, because I could be talking to my brother and I could be like, oh, I'm having one of those attacks. He'll be like, oh, okay. But if I'm talking to somebody in the group, they'll be like, oh, I know how you're feeling, and they know the way that I feel because they're suffering the same way as I am.
Mona, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story exclusively. This is the first time you're sharing your story. Is that correct?
Correct.
My prayers and well wishes are for you.
Thank
That
you.
you and hopefully the ivermectin, as well as anything else that eventually you might go on, can make you feel better, and sooner than later.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on, and God bless you.
Thank you
And
so much.
please, I would like you to come on very soon again for an update, because I would love to hear an update from you.
Okay.
And thank you again, Mona.
Okay. Thank
Have a
you so
great
much. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Wow. Just to hear all these stories is just so sad. They all deserve to be heard. And we're going to hear another one right now. I'm going to bring on Fred Pye to up. Hello, Fred. I hope you're having a great evening.
I'm trying, pal. I'm trying.
My prayers and well wishes are for all of you. I mean,
Thank you.
All of these stories need to be heard, Fred.
Definitely.
And I want you to share your story with me on, and not just how you're feeling now, but just what has been going on. And just tell me what just again, once again, when you were vaccinated, what happened, following that, and just the timeline of things that have occurred.
I got the Moderna shot May 25th, and I actually took the immediate reaction in Shoppers Drug Mart, and they had to call an ambulance. But that consisted of my feet went cold and tingly, and I thought maybe it was just kind of the way I was sitting on them or sitting in the chair, and it rose up my legs, and then it kind of went into my stomach area, and I got really squeamish. And then I got really kind of like dizzy, and my head went tingly, and my limbs went all pins and needles like asleep. And then I couldn't lift my left arm or my left leg, and I felt like somebody literally took my lungs and twisted them, and I couldn't breathe. So they called the ambulance, and the ambulance come in, and they were looking for little red dots. They said they were lifting up my shirt and stuff, and so I guess about 45 minutes into that, we were talking, they were assessing me, and then they took me out to the ambulance, and I had to sign a release waiver because I felt, better by this time. It's about an hour in, and I only had a little bit of like tingles in the top of my head. So I signed a release waiver, and my buddy was waiting in the truck for me actually, and I didn't get a couple pole lengths down the road, and it happened again. I couldn't breathe. So he got me home and made sure I was okay and such. After about 2 hours, we were pulled over for about 2 hours, I guess. And then the next day when I woke up, I was just totally drained. I was totally drained. The best way to describe it is if you had cancer and went through 100 chemo treatments. Just gross. So I get up totally fatigued, a lot of pins and needles in my limbs. And I noticed my heart started palpitating, like it was beating odd and fast at times. So I called my fiance, and she came in with me. And that evening, I actually collapsed and I stopped breathing on the patio. I fell through the door and landed on the step and stopped breathing. She called 911. So I was admitted that night. They said my heart was in major AFib. It was just beating rapid and crazy out of my chest. So the outpatient's doctor came in. I told him what was going on. I said I was vaccinated. I think it was a reaction to the vaccine because the day prior I took the immediate reaction to it. And he kind of just brushed it off, like rolled his eyes more or less, and he left. I never seen that doctor no more. He didn't come back in. He didn't tell me what was going on. One heart specialist doctor came in and he said, let's just worry about your heart rate now and nothing else, more or less. He didn't want to hear about the vaccine or what happened. So after that, 2 or 3 days later, I had a heart loop monitor put in my chest to monitor my heart. And I noticed I was starting to get a lot worse. Like the numbness and the tingles were constant. I couldn't think straight. My anxiety was through the roof. I couldn't read. I couldn't do nothing. So with that, my legs and my calf muscles started like tremoring, jolting, and they would lock, pulsate and lock, and the pain from it was just tremendous. So when I tried to walk with that, my legs would literally vibrate. So it was keeping me from walking proper. One leg it started in, and then about 4 or 5 days later, two legs. Then I couldn't walk. So with that, I was dealing with that. And then in the nights, I was starting to wake up and I couldn't breathe. Like, the best way to explain is it felt like somebody was literally sitting on my chest and pushing on it. Like I was trying to breathe, but I couldn't. Then, like, I went paralyzed. Literally, I couldn't move probably 2 hours. So with that, my fiance called when I stopped breathing. She called the ambulance. The ambulance came. Same guys for my heart, actually. And I told them what was kind of going on. I said, I didn't get really any medical attention. Like, what's going on? He said, I shouldn't be telling you this, but don't mention nothing about the vaccines and you will be treated and looked at more thoroughly. So when he said that, I was kind of thinking, something's definitely up here, right?
Wait a second. I want you to say that again. I just want to make sure I heard that correct. The ER, this was the ambulance worker, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
He said to you that don't say anything about adverse reactions, essentially.
Yeah. Because I mentioned to him, I said, how come when it seems like when I mention it to the doctors, they kind of just ignore it or change the subject right away or kind of just get up and leave. And then I don't see them again. And that's what he returned with. He said, I shouldn't be telling you this, but do not mention you were vaccine injured and you will get looked at more thoroughly. So it kind of blew my mind. And no, I'm mentioning it. Like, that's what I'm here for. So 1, 2, 3, 7 times the ambulance was called throughout the first couple of weeks. But one other time I was brought over by ambulance to outpatients. They did not take me directly in. I actually had to sit in outpatients. And I was sitting there for 6 hours with my legs just going crazy. And my head felt like it was going to blow off. I get up and I went over and I asked them, like, can you give me a Tylenol or something? Like, I had to hobble over. And the lady said, you got to go all the way down that end and ask for it. So she made me hobble all the way down the other end. So when I got there, I was like, I'm here 6 hours. I'm like, what's taking so long? She said, a bunch of buses come in, meaning ambulances. I said, well, I come in by ambulance. She said, well, these matters are more important. I said, well, how much longer will I have to wait? She said, well, probably another 12 hours. So I would have been there 18 hours. So I had to get up, hobble out past the security guard who was asleep in the chair. And when I got home, I removed my own intravenous. So it's just terrible. The next trip over, I was laying in the bed. I was admitted by ambulance again. I was really bad that night, stopped breathing again, paralyzed also. And the doctor came in. His first words to me were, what are you looking to get out of this? I said, well, help would be nice, And he literally turned around, left, and I had blood work and an EKG done. The nurse came in the next morning. She said, Mr. Pye, you're being released. I said, I'm being released. I'm like, but I didn't get anything done. I don't want to leave. I want testings done. She said, well, we did our testings. I said, well, blood work I could get in my living room. And I own an EKG. It's in my chest. It's being sent. It's monitoring my heart and being sent to the heart specialist. I said, that's not testings. She said, Mr. Pye, you have to leave. So with that, I had a few more incidents, 12 seizures to date. I didn't bother calling the ambulance no more because they literally take me there, and I get, I'm told to leave.
This,
So why
this is
create a bunch of ambulance bills for nothing and not get looked at? So
Fred.
it's very frustrating.
This is all in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
This is all going on in the last 6 weeks of your life.
Yep. Yep. So I went 3 weeks with not being able to walk, basically hobbling around. Basically a heart attack, well, major AFib. 12. Well, it's 14 seizures now to date. Partial paralysis, once for 7 hours, once for 3 or 4 hours. I went paralyzed 3 times, and like just the brain fog and all your other symptoms. But now I'll find I'm laying in bed and I'll feel like I'm burning up from the inside, and my eyes and my mouth go extremely dry, and the breathing is so shallow. Like I really shallow breathe. So it's scary. Like I'm traumatized. My fiance's traumatized. My kids are traumatized. It's and I can't get no help. I'm self-medicating with the ivermectin, that's pharmaceutical for horses, and this is what's helping me. I bought
And
it at a
before I
local
get
food
and
shop.
before I get into how you're feeling at the moment, did you ever get the second Moderna shot?
No, I was actually advised by my pharmacist not to, and she said, I don't care what they say, you're not getting a second Moderna shot from me. But I did have public health
Well,
call me the other
makes you
day,
wonder why she said that.
but it gets better. Public health called me the other day and said their physician deemed me okay to get my second Moderna shot. I said, deem me okay? She said, yes, just go to a different clinic, one that has a bed. So when you pass out, you'll be laying down. Not if, when you pass out.
When?
But so I was like, lady, are you serious right now? Do you know what happened to me? Do you know what I'm currently going through? She said, yes, it's all here at paperwork. It's reported and in front of us, and our physician deems you good to get the next shot. So I said, I have to let you go, lady. Like my mind's blown right now. And she kind of chuckled and hung up. So, and they
So,
tried contacting me yesterday again.
so how are you feeling at the moment? The fact that you're taking animal ivermectin, which is a shame that you can't get it. You can't get a prescription of it. You have to get you have to take the animal version of it. How are you
Yeah,
feeling?
I tried. It is working. I'm feeling good about it, but I feel like I was failed by my doctor for sure. I went into a visit with him, and I actually showed it to him, and he kind of snatched it, and he was looking at it. He's like, "What's this?" I said, "It's ivermectin," and he said, "Well, what do you do with it?" I said, "It's paste form, and you take it out per your body weight. And take it." I explained to him. He said, "I've never heard of this before." You know. So a few minutes passed by. We're talking, and the appointment was over. I was getting up to leave, and I said, doc, can you prescribe me something for the tremors? Like it's very painful, and it's hard. It's very hard. He said, well, I typically don't prescribe ivermectin because that's used for worms and parasites and stomach funguses and stuff like that. But 5 minutes ago, he acted like he didn't even know what it was. Then he's telling me what it's for. So obviously he knew from the get-go, and he's just hiding something.
Have you shared your story to anyone aside from myself today?
Yeah, I talked with I had brain fog here. With
Okay.
another group anyway. I did a podcast, and Rebel News is actually coming down to do one with me too.
Oh, they're a great group. Oh
Yeah,
boy.
yeah.
I know they
I
have been very, very active in reference to what's going on in Canada with those that are entering the country and essentially being imprisoned for 2 weeks.
yeah, yeah. So I put my story on Twitter, and that's actually how Angelina and Sean reached out to me, and you know what? I love those girls right to death. I seen their videos when they first come out, and they inspired me, and that's why I did what I did. So I'm on there now trying to reach out to anybody that's vax injured to, give me a call, message, and I'll do my best to help with the knowledge I learned from those girls and the group. Only for that group, I don't know where I'd be right now. Honestly, I don't.
I was just about to ask you about the support from not just that group, but as well as your family. I want you to delve into that.
It's been phenomenal from the groups. Like I said, I learned a lot. My fiance, Jocelyn, I don't know how she does it. Every incident, seizure, or whatever they are happening, she's been through them, and crying over me on the phone with ambulances and saying, thinking I'm gonna die. So I mean, she's really traumatized too. So it, like, Sean said, it's hard on everybody, right? Like, it really is. Yeah, my little fella had to set up a phone and run up the road and get his grandmother there a week and a half ago when I took a seizure. So it's really scary stuff.
And again, you received the vaccine because you want this pandemic to come to an end.
Yeah, I asked questions. Every question I asked, of course, I got good news back. Any adverse reactions that you were told, have heard of, they all say no. So I'm actually doing a little documentary type deal thing myself. But I did go into a pharmacy, and I went to the pharmacist, and I asked. I said, "Did you hear of any adverse reactions or any stories? Anything you could tell me? I'm thinking on getting the shot, the vaccine." And they said, "No, nothing." I said, "Okay." So once I got talking to them, I said, "Actually, I was vax injured." I showed them my story on Twitter and such, some videos of me taking seizures. And I told them, I said, "Now you can tell people when they ask, you heard of somebody having an adverse reaction." So I let about an hour go by, and I sent my daughter in. She's 14 years old. And she went and told them that she's thinking on getting a shot. And she asked if there was, if they heard of any adverse reactions and such. They told her no. And it was the same pharmacist. So, they all know it, and they're all hiding it for some reason, whether it's a gag order, they're scared to lose their job. But informed consent, we're lacking here big time. And I was lacked it, and this is the result. So,
if you ever had any type of consent, now knowing what you know between, I mean, I just can't see any way that you would even think about getting these vaccines.
I wouldn't put my worst enemy through this. Honestly,
Wow.
It's a nightmare. It's hell. It really is. And that's like, I cried thinking about the girls in the group, like, how are they managing this when I'm going through this much? It's heart-wrenching. Really is. I don't know how they're doing it. They're stronger than me. Let's put it that way.
Fred, my prayers and well wishes go out to you. And I
Thank
hope
you.
And I would love for you to please come on back and give an update very, very soon.
Yes, we'll do.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great night now. Bye-bye.
You.
They just want to be heard. This is very simple. They just wanted to share their story and want to be heard. And that's why I'm doing this. And we have one more story tonight. This young lady has been on a number of different shows, including the Stu Peters show, which I'm going to put up on the screen in a minute. And I welcome to the broadcast Stevie Thrasher. Stevie,
hi,
thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And I know your story has been, you have shared your story to a number of different media outlets. The one that I saw in particular was 3 weeks ago on the Stu Peters show. Stu Peters has been very powerful in trying to find out the truth in reference to the COVID vaccines as well as COVID itself. And I know every Friday he's on for a 1-hour segment on InfoWars, just talking and just trying to find out the truth, because that is what we need. We deserve to find out the truth as humanity about all of this, about why why have 600,000 people died from COVID? And 2, why are all of you, the 440,000 individuals just in the United States alone, injured from these vaccines that are being reported right now? We don't even know. I'm afraid to even look what next week's numbers are, considering that you had the huge jump in VAERS deaths last week. Stevie, I want you to share, since the Stu Peters show, and I'm going to put that up because to hear your story, please go on to, and I'm going to put this up right now. This is the interview. And Stevie, I'm going to play the 30-second clip from it, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, is that the interview?
I think this is just a 30-second clip. There's a 16-minute clip, but I want to play this right now first.
Okay.
Hey guys, I just wanted to let you know my interview is now out. Stu Peters Show .tv. Just go to Stu Peters.
There, I want to play real quick just to promote Stu Peters's because I forgot the site. I forgot the site.
His website is redvoicemedia.com, and he actually goes on every single day. He's actually a co-owner now. Just recently became a co-owner, and so he cannot be censored. He can have anyone on he wants, and he can speak freely. And I think that's amazing. After meeting and speaking with Stu Peters, he is a wonderful person, and all he wants to do is help and get the word out and help us.
How did you find him? How'd you find him?
So I was connected with him through a woman who's also suffering. She was actually paralyzed by, I believe, the Pfizer as well. She's in Florida, Britt Galvin. She found me on Instagram and introduced me to Stu Peters, and that's when I did my first interview. And my interview with Stu Peters actually brought me to a holistic doctor where I did FSM, frequency-specific microcurrent therapy, and ozone therapy, which actually has helped.
And I want you to share. I want you now to share your story. Since the Stu Peters interview, how are you feeling? Are you still going for those treatments? What has been going on? And anything else that you want to discuss?
Yeah, so I received my Pfizer vaccine on April 27th. I didn't have the quick initial symptoms. It kind of started out slowly. It started with a heavy menstrual cycle lasting for 9 days, very painful menstrual cycle. I actually had a fall in the shower. My legs completely gave out. And I was seeing spots, muffled hearing, things like that. And then it progressed from there. It's a very long story, but basically I've been to 4 different hospitals, 10 hospital visits. I've my GP 3 times, who I recently had to fire for putting false information in my medical records, and with no help whatsoever. I had 3 neurology visits, which I just recently got scheduled with a second opinion neurologist with University of Washington, which is the end of August. And I'm cautiously optimistic about it, just because, you know, every time you go to the hospital, every time you go to the doctors, you're like, okay, this is it. They're going to help me. They're going to diagnose me. They're going to do the test I need. You know, they're going to do something. And every single time you're turned away, you're called crazy. It's really horrible. It's traumatizing. It's absolutely traumatizing. And you don't trust them anymore. They're supposed to be working for you and your health, and just getting turned away and called crazy is it's devastating.
It's just so sad. What has happened to our medical profession?
Yeah, I now have another GP August 2nd, so I'm hoping I get a better doctor then. I contact the Frontline Doctors of America. American Frontline Doctors, and I'm getting a kit to test my blood again, since I haven't been in the hospital for a while. And hopefully I'll be getting ivermectin as well, as I've heard from Angelia, Sean, and all of them that it's been helping them, and so I'm hopeful that I can get it soon.
You have been very public about your story.
Yeah, you can't shut me up, Joe. I am shouting from the rooftops. I want everyone to know that this is a possibility. You are not being informed correctly by the mainstream media, by the doctors, by the pharmacists. You're not being told the truth. And we have had to be our own doctors. We've had to be our own scientists and find our own treatments and basically crawl and tremor our way, trying to figure this out while we're sick and injured.
And that shouldn't be the case. When you're sick, you should be able to go to the doctor and try to get help instead of being.
I'm scared to go to the doctors or the hospital now.
You're supposed to have trust and faith in your physicians, and instead they're gaslighting you.
Yeah, so I one of the times I went to the hospital, I mean, I was having the worst tremors, and they put an IV in, never took my blood, didn't do any tests, and basically told me to see a psychiatrist and go home.
Wow. A psychiatrist. A psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Thinking that you're crazy.
The one who gives out meds, you know, because big pharma.
Right. Exactly. Oh yeah. Right. Exactly. And by the way, I follow Stevie on Instagram, and that's where you can follow her. Is it Stevie.Thrasher? What I want you to promote your Instagram because.
Go
ahead.
So it's sacred_Pisces 233. And I made it public so you can see my life and my pictures before the vaccine, and then you can see the drastic change in the videos. There's a video of me trying to turn a key, and I'm shaking. I can't grip it.
Right.
And you can see me full body tremors. I try to videotape it every time, just
before I ask you,
document a diary.
Before I ask you to repeat that, because you're cutting in and out, there's one in particular of your dog licking you, and then immediately after you were tremoring.
Oh yes, so my boyfriend's cousin brought her dog over to try and cheer me up, said, hey, I gotta go do something. Do you want to watch the dog for a little bit? And so I was literally just playing with the dog for about 3 hours. And then there's a video of me on the couch in my sundress, just full on tremors just from petting and playing with the puppy. It's hard. I'm basically couch bound. I mean, I have been doing better, but again, it depends on how much activity. It depends if it's hot out. There are so many different factors that can trigger it, and you're scared to do anything because it could trigger it.
Wow. And again, I want you to say the name to say your screen handle one more time. It's Sacred
_Pisces 233.
Okay. And I apologize that I said Stevie Thrasher. So Sacred _Pisces. I'm gonna write this down. 233.
Correct.
Okay. Aside from Stu Peters, myself, and I think there was a couple other interviews, has anyone mainstream reached out to you yet?
Polly Tommy, who she's not mainstream, but she's probably the most famous, I guess you'd say. I did interview with Polly Tommy. I did also just on Friday, I did an AM radio. It's called An Informed Life, and it's here in Washington State where I live. And it was also videotaped, so it was on the radio live and recorded Zoom. And they are actually in a group called Informed Consent Washington, and they found me through the Stu Peters show and helped me find the holistic doctor that I found.
Informed consent.
Yeah.
The fact that we have not received
the first thing
any
they said, we wish we got you before you got the vaccine. Yeah.
Informed consent. And my question for you is now, of course, not just your symptoms, but hearing the hundreds of thousands of stories. Again,
I have had
130 million people thought they were just doing the right thing by
I listened to the mainstream media who was saying it was safe. I talked to my coworkers. I'm a vet assistant, and so my coworkers in the medical field, they're criticalists in the ER, who know, the medical field, and I saw my coworkers get it who, to my knowledge, didn't have symptoms, and so I didn't listen to my gut, and I got it. I have my.
There it is. And I was just about to ask you, did you get the second shot?
No, my neurologist told me not to.
Wow. And as I've said on multiple occasions already tonight, and I'm going to say it again, if one COVID death is too many and one COVID long hauler is too many, then one post-COVID vax death is too many. And one post-COVID vax injured person is too many. And we should find out why.
There's a statistic by Dr. Robert Malone, who is the inventor of the mRNA, who states for every 3 people affected by COVID, 2 are affected by the vaccine.
Right. And furthermore, imagine now they're trying to give these vaccines to children.
Yeah, so here, Angelia was talking about it. So here in Washington State, for 12 to 17-year-olds who get the vaccine, they can be put into a lottery to win video games, toys, money, as an incentive for 12 to 17-year-olds to get it. And there was actually a boy, I believe, 17, I think, who was in University of Washington with a heart condition after getting the vaccine, the Pfizer.
Wait, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
This is a drug.
Yeah.
And it's not my words. The FDA calls it a drug. A vaccine is a drug. You're putting a drug into your body. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible that people are being persuaded to get this. In particular, like I've said, everything you're hearing about is about J&J, all these problems with J&J, all these problems with AstraZeneca, but
yeah, which is pushing everyone towards the mRNA, which seems to be the most lethal at this point that they're not speaking about.
Right. And then when you even mention the vaccines that are more traditional and conventional, like Novavax, they're just ignored. Completely ignored. I think we need to know why. We need to find out why that's happening. We need to find out why you are injured without being censored. Someone recently, I thought I saw a post of yours recently that a person was saying something ridiculous in the fact that he thought you were making things up. Totally gaslighting.
Yeah, basically saying that that I'm a bad actor and that my tremor videos are fake. I mean, I've gotten so much hate. I've had people tell me that I am going to kill people by telling them not to get the vaccine, which I'm not telling people to not get the vaccine. I'm just saying that we need to be heard, we need to be seen, and everyone needs to have the informed consent that this is a possibility. You need to be prepared that this could happen to you. And they're not doing that.
Right. Exactly. None of you. I've had a conversation with Angelia, and before I first talked to her, she wanted to make sure I was not an anti-vaccine zealot. Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way,
they're like, well, we told you.
She's still up. She's still up. I'm bringing her on here, Angelia.
Hi,
I'm bringing you back up. Angelia, I'm bringing you back up.
Yeah.
Okay. The first time I had a conversation with you, we spoke for an hour, and you wanted to, and I want you to tell the audience, you wanted to make sure that I was not an anti-vaccine zealot.
Yes. And that's really important to me, Joe, because, you know, we've all been labeled as anti-vaxxers, but we're not. We're pro-science. We were pro-vaccine. I consider us ex-vaxxers. You know, that's the best way that I can describe it, because I don't think I will ever take another vaccine. And I don't want to be mixed in with being labeled as an anti-vaxxer, because if I was, none of us would have taken this vaccine. You know, anti-vaxxers don't take vaccine.
Yep.
So it was very important, you know, and we try not to bring politics into our whole movement. We want to be heard. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to politics. You know, I know that.
You're right.
It is. I mean, I try to be a pretty reasonable person and give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But it's just, everything is a mess right now. Everything. And that was one of the things I first asked you. Well, you know, what is your stance on this? And we're not out looking for.
I'm pro-safe. My stance is I'm pro-safe vaccine.
Absolutely.
I am pro-safe vaccine.
Absolutely.
And there's a reason why it takes years to develop safe and good vaccines.
You know, I try to tell everybody, had I known that we were going to have all of these neurological issues, had that been addressed, had I known that I was going to lose my job, not be able to drive my car, be a prisoner in my home, not be able to go out in the public in fear of convulsions, I never would have gotten the darn thing. You know, I would have waited until it was completely approved and not under the emergency management use. And I just feel like things would have been different. But I listened to our media, I listened to our leaders, and here we are today with absolutely no help.
Well, that's going to change. I'm going to bring up everybody. I'm going to bring up everybody else right now. I'm going to have the six of us come on in, and I'm going to.
Joe,
go right ahead, Stevie.
I just want to thank Angelia and Sean for being so strong and brave and for swooping in and picking me up when I had no idea what was going on. Thank you so much. You saved my life.
We love you. We love everybody. We're the mother hens of our group.
And I want to thank all of you for coming on and sharing your stories. And as I said before, this is going to be part of a series. I'm going to do this weekly until the mainstream hears all of you. I want to put on 5 people every single week onto my podcast because your voices deserve to be heard. Something happened to you post-vaccination and answers. You are all demanding answers and you deserve them. You did your due diligence. You wanted to get vaccinated so the pandemic could come to an end. And something happened during that. And all of you, fortunately, thank God, are alive. But unfortunately, very sad, we have 9,000 people who have died in the United States alone from this.
Yeah,
and
they
we
didn't
need
get a
to
chance
find
to
out
their
why.
voice heard.
That's right. That's right. And Sean, you're on mute. I know you're trying to say something.
I want to add that we've had a couple suicides, family members that have reached out to our group, victims, and I call us victims because I feel like we are victims that just could not, they just weren't as strong as we were, and they just couldn't take these reactions any longer, and they took their own lives.
I'm so very sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
Once again, I beg, if anyone out there is going through issues, please reach out to any of us. We will help you.
Yes,
we will
absolutely.
love you. I have been on the phone hours upon hours with people, walking them through their convulsions and their tremors. Whatever I can do, you can find me on Facebook. My name is Angelia Gibson DeSalle. Just reach out to us, guys. There's help. We're here. We love
Yes,
you,
reach out to any of us.
and we will be there for you.
One final
Absolutely.
question for the audience, just for all of you. What do you do you want from the mainstream?
The truth.
We'll start with
We
Steve.
want to be heard.
We want medical help. We want to go into a doctor's office and them say, "Oh, wow, let's get you fixed." They don't know what's going on with us because it's all brand new. But we need to be studied, and they need to come up with a resolution.
Exactly.
And they need to tell people the truth on mainstream media.
Yes.
Fred?
Like I said, it's not a matter of me saying don't get vaccinated. Just take in from what we're saying, learn from it, make your decision off of that. Base it on things that are actually happening, not what they're telling you, because it's lies right now. You're not going to get the truth, unfortunately.
Mona?
Just basically like for us to be heard so we could get the proper treatment. And if this vaccination was like experimental, then why can't they experiment with like ivermectin and different medications to help us?
Exactly.
Joe, when I asked my primary care physician for ivermectin so I wouldn't have to go through the American frontline doctors, he told me no. And his reason was it was not FDA approved and had not been through enough experimental studies. And the nurse asked me if there was anything I would like to respond back with. And I said, can you grab a pen and paper? Because I had a whole lot to say, because neither was that shot that I took in January that ruined my life.
Exactly.
You know, I just couldn't believe that he wouldn't give me a pill that might help me. We just want to be treated like people.
Well, mainstream, you've heard it. And this is now my second podcast that I've pretty much have done informed consent for the vaccine companies. I had an episode with Matthew Crawford where we went over data about the risks versus the benefits of vaccination in different age groups. And now all of these episodes, this series is essentially going to be doing the job for the vaccine companies of informed consent and showing the different stories, because all of you deserve to be heard. And this is an open invitation for anyone to please share your story post-vaccination. As I said, I'm trying to get Dr. Yogendra and Dr. Patterson from Incel DX to come on very, very soon, because they have news and more and updated research about both long haulers and the long hauler post-vax patients. I want to thank everyone for coming on tonight and
Thank you, Joe.
sharing your story.
Thank you
And
for having us.
you're very welcome. And this is another episode of Joe's Place that's in the books. And on Saturday we're gonna have a guest that's going to talk about NAC as well as B complex and how it's helping patients both post-COVID and during COVID as well as post-vaccination. Should be very, very interesting having him on. But once again, thank you all for coming on. And I thank everybody for watching tonight. You have yourselves a wonderful night. And thank you again. Good night.
Thank you, Joe.